Good morning. This is your Sunday class with Dan and Lee. Miss Lee, are you here today?
I think so.
You've been going crazy chasing your dog around.
Mm-hmm.
We ask everybody to pray for our dog. He's really getting old. What an exciting day today. We're beginning to study what we think of as the Last Supper, but it's called the Passover here. And this is the last Passover that Jesus is going to take before he dies. So it's a very solemn thing, but they don't know it's solemn. They just think, wow, it's the Passover.
It's a solemn time, but also a time of rejoicing because it's when they left Egypt. And
now,
so
what's the Passover?
it's when they were leaving Egypt, and the what's his name? The Pharaoh. I can't remember his name.
Pharaoh.
He was not letting them leave. Moses is going and pleading with them, let my people go, let my people go. And so now had he let them go yet? Or
nope.
This is right before. Okay.
He's holding them. Last thing. He reneged.
The Lord sends this plague on them where the firstborn will die. But if the Jews will put the blood
if anyone,
on their...
wasn't just
anyway,
Jews.
okay, yeah, that is true. It was everyone, because, yeah. We'll put the blood of the lamb, a sacrificial lamb, pure lamb, on their, what do they call that? The entrance to your house. There's a word for it. And
it's like a cross, like above and the two sides.
Right. If they put the blood on that, then the angel of death will pass over that house, and the firstborn of anyone in that family. That means it could be...
No, you could bring people into your household.
To your house, if they would...
And it would be protected.
And
actually, it's very interesting, because in the movie Moses, they did that.
Yeah, it's real. Yeah, it's a good visual.
It's a big... If you get the chance to go see that, you should. But this is celebrating, for thousands of years, this Passover. And Jews celebrate it every year. And it's a very big deal. Very big deal.
And I think this is also an excellent example of how, as Christians, you may have a lot of non-believers around you. You deal with them all the time. But they can also be blessed by being with you and participating, with you. Even though they may not be believers in the full sense of the word, they can still be blessed by that.
They enter into your protection.
So this is a time that...
And in a sense, that's what we prayed today. We have a family that's being kind of persecuted here in the park unjustly, not for being Christian, just for being industrious and fruitful. And we're praying for them, for protection. And that, in a sense, they're getting protected by our prayers.
Our prayers.
So that works the same way, but we as Christians call this something different. You know what we call it?
Well...
We paint pictures about this.
No, I don't know where you're going with this.
It's called the Last Supper.
Oh, the Last Supper, okay.
See, the reason we see it as the Last Supper...
I was thinking, I know it's not Easter. It's not Christmas.
Is really, Passover's a meal, okay?
Yeah, we used to do this in our house
and they have
many years ago.
They have a lamb, or you can do a chicken... and they have eggs, and they have the wine, and they have the bread that's bruised and pursed, and the salt.
Herbs.
And we'll go through this a little more sometime, because this is going to be going on for quite a while now in our studies. But we see it from the other side of history.
Yeah.
So history is, the Jews see it from the side of history. This is why it's very important to study the Bible in history. The Jews see it, and the disciples saw this as just another Passover. And we do this every year.
It was important, but it was just another one.
But it's important, but we've done this since I was born, you know.
Yeah.
We see it, and we see it as the Last Supper. Now, we've made this into kind of an empty thing, where we call it communion. Because that's what you're doing, the wine or the grape juice and the little cup. And that's celebrating in remembrance of Christ, and we've broken it down to that little piece. Not that that's wrong, not that Passover's wrong, but Passover is a much bigger thing, because it's a whole picture of the Redeemer Messiah that takes your death away. And that's what it's about.
Just for a quick example, the bread that's pierced.
Mm-hmm.
It's an example of how Christ was pierced, but you don't really study that when you take
And it's unleavened.
this communion. Yeah,
No sin in it.
no sin. Right.
Okay, so we'll be talking about that more. But we're going to read now. What verses are this we're reading now?
Okay, we are reading Matthew 26, 17 through 19, Mark 14, 12 through 16, and Luke 22, 7 through 13.
Again, what we read, it comes from the Life of Christ to Stereo, and it's putting it together so you can actually take all the passages, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John,
You read those
and have
together.
it all harmonized together. So that's kind of what we're reading.
All right. Then came the first day of unleavened bread, which the Passover lamb, when the Passover lamb must be killed.
Okay, now the Passover lamb was an unblemished
Story in itself.
lamb that the children had raised. Now this is really, we would think of this as cruel.
Oh yeah.
Because have you ever created a pet animal?
Yes.
That's what they did. This became their pet.
Very hard.
This is what they loved. I had this situation where my father did this, but it was with a rabbit. And I had to raise it, and then I had the choice, and it wasn't this big a deal, but the choice that we could have it for dinner, I don't know, a special occasion, or I could buy, it's my birthday. I could have it for dinner for my birthday, or I could have a shotgun for my birthday. And I love to hunt. So I was 10 years old, and I had to postpone my feelings and put in what was fruitful. Now, I didn't reason through that exactly like that, but I know I really liked to hunt, and I really wanted to be grown up, and having a shotgun and being grown up, and, you know, I reasoned through it as best a child could at 10 years old, and I chose the shotgun. But the key was I had to shoot the rabbit, and I had to kill it. So I had to totally postpone my feelings and do the fruitful thing. And that's what's going on with these children. They're raising this lamb knowing they're going to eat it on Passover.
Yeah, that's even worse.
And they're going to participate in its slaying.
I know I had a not as drastic a situation, but I remember back during the Cuban Missile Crisis, we had a bomb shelter in our house somewhere. And I remember my dad, I don't know how old I was, but I was young, like around that 9, 10, something like that. And my dad explained the situation to me, and as a child...
He was in the military.
He was in the military. And
weren't you in Langley at that time?
Virginia, yeah. And you don't actually really understand everything, but, you know, as much as you can. And I had a little toy poodle that I just loved. My dad told me that at that time, he said, if something happens and we have to go stay in this bomb shelter, I'm going to let you make the decision. I can either humanely shoot your dog and put it down, or we can just turn it out and it can fend for itself. That was horrible.
Yeah, it was.
To think of.
In both cases, you had a bad emotion.
Yeah.
See, you had no real reward there. That's where this
is
different.
That's why I said it was a little different.
This is, but I think it was. We want to be careful. We have emotions, and we need to be sensitive. But emotions are not the truth. They lie to us. Just like these little kids that raised this lamb to be a pet would have loved this lamb and not wanted to eat it, not wanted to kill it, but it was God's will. God commanded it because it was a picture of what Christ was coming. Now, Christians have turned emotions into their God, and we've got a serious problem there now. But let's move on with the passage.
Okay. The disciples came to Jesus saying, "When do you wish us to go and prepare for you to eat the Passover?" So he sent off Peter and John, saying, "Go and prepare the Passover for us, that we may eat it."
Okay, now the Passover wasn't just having a little cup and a little wafer.
Chicken nuggets and French fries.
No, they had to
from
buy.
McDonald's.
They had to get
There's a lot of stuff.
dough that was unleavened. They had to get a lamb that was pure. They had to get all these eggs, and they had to get all. It was a meal. It was like go to the grocery store and buy all the stuff we're going to need for the Passover.
Well, I think an interesting thing to think of is, too, a lot of times, especially I notice like during Easter, you will see that grocery stores have special kosher.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because the Jews are celebrating Easter, they're celebrating Passover, but there's a lot of rules that pertain to their food.
That's right.
And so they had to do all this
things.
too.
They had to do that. And that's what they're doing. The disciples are preparing for this. Jesus went on and did other things.
And they said to him, "Where will you have us prepare it?" And he said to them, "Go into the city, and behold, there will meet you a man carrying a pitcher of water. Follow him, and wherever he may go in, say to the man of the house, 'The teacher says to you, my time is at hand. Where is the guest room for me to eat the Passover at your home with my disciples?'"
Now, this is called the upper room. What would we, from the other side of history, know it was a room up above?
Okay, now just from a human perspective, just think he's telling you, just walk into town, find this guy with a pitcher of water and follow him, and then ask him what room we can use. And you're thinking, what? I mean,
well,
that sounds crazy.
I find Lee gets all upset so many times because she wants to know how to do everything.
Oh yeah, I like
from now to the rest of our lives.
I'm a list person. Yeah, I'm a list person.
And so many times, because I said, well, the Lord's got to supply our needs. I mean, we're faith missionaries, and we've always lived by faith, and I've kind of got used to it. I'm not sure Lee still is used to it, although she has more responsibility to prepare the meals and buy the food. But so I'm not putting her down in any way. But the whole point is, it's much more stressful when you're used to taking care of all the details, and versus the missionary who's used to studying and preparing and seeing what the Lord does. And that's kind of where these disciples would have been. They were doing the details, and it would have been tough to do that. But they had gotten enough experience now to realize when the Lord tells you there's a guy there with a pitcher, there'll be a guy there with a pitcher. Now think about that. There'll be a guy there with a pitcher. How does he know that? Because he's God. He knows these things.
Okay, and he goes on to say, you find this guy with a pitcher, you follow him, and then you go to his house, you ask him, where is the guest room for me to eat the Passover at your house with my disciples? And he will show you a large upper room, furnished and ready, there prepared for us. Why does this guy have a room prepared and ready for this? Now, who is this guy?
The Lord had prepared him.
Do we ever know who this guy is?
Well, no, but see, this is a good example of, we think we're the only ones. Like, for instance, my neighbor, who we just asked you to pray for, that's being persecuted, one of the reasons he's being persecuted, he has a whole bunch of carpeting. Said he had a warehouse full. And we live in an RV park, and he's got some. He's trying to sell it for nothing to people in his park. Nobody has any money because we're all pretty poor. And so he's having a hard time. So the park is kind of giving him a hard time about it, okay? I went over and talked to him, and I was able to get a deal because it's indoor, outdoor, some of it, and I use it for my driveways and all kind of stuff, so I got a super deal. But it even came out better than that because the Lord had prepared. He knew I wanted this. He knew I didn't really have the money, and
extra money that we don't actually have.
Because I just barely could. I negotiated a half price, and I couldn't even really come up with a half price. And the lady had met Lee one time, and she said, "Well, you guys are real smart." And I go, "No, we're not really smart. We just have been around a few times." And he said, "And your wife can write, and I need to write this thing. Could she do it for me? I'll trade you. I'll barter. I'd much rather barter it." And so she's going to barter this to give us all the carpet we need, which is amazing because that's $1,000 worth of carpet. And Lee will write this, whatever she needs. I don't know what it is. It's a real blessing. But also we're praying for them because they are getting in some tensions here with the park management because they just kind of we got some people around here that like to gossip and create trouble. And they've done that to them, and they've tried to do it with me. And I said, no, these are nice people. So it's just the Lord prepares. And that's why as you're going, the Bible says we're going, make disciples. It doesn't say go, 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 because you go and you're just going, go, where do I go? Going, do your life. Be fruitful,
Going
multiply.
is just everyday life,
be
right?
fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, rule it, subdue it, witnessing to people. It's building, it's teaching your children, it's
showing compassion, kindness.
Well, that Christians
truth.
are real easy at that, but I'm trying to talk about things that they
that are
don't
harder.
normally do as thinking they're spiritual.
How about in your work? How about being honest?
Fruitful, honesty.
In your work.
Well, they do that too.
Fruitful.
They'd say that, but the whole idea of a loving God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, studying the world philosophies, thinking about everything instead of just feeling. See, Christians, we tend to go to these wrong, the flesh, the feeling, the emotional. And the result is we get taken captive through the world, the flesh, or the devil. These are, and realizing we're at war with the world, the flesh, and the devil. We've got to think, and we've got to, it's always a war. We live in a war zone, is what I'm trying to say. And the result is we have to constantly be aware of the battle we're in. And I forgot what I was telling that story for. Miss Lee, you're supposed to be. You're dreaming here. You're not.
My mind is racing.
I know.
We're talking about what Christians do in your everyday life. Going.
Oh, the going. That's why the word is going, not go. See, Christians have. When you ask people what the Great Commission is, they say, "Go, make disciples." I said, "No. It says going."
There's something about that being an active verb or something.
As we're going, the verb is make disciples. Disciple making is the verb. The adjective is descriptive. As we're going, living our lives. We don't quit living our lives. And see, Christians, and we just had a person on Facebook today that just, it was so sad. A nice person that we like a lot that just had missed this because they wanted to be more spiritual. And they prayed that God would do this instead of realizing, wait a minute, you can do that through everything you do. Mm-hmm. You don't have to do it through just attending church. And usually we've had 2 or 3 people this week that they think they have to be in church every 5 minutes because that's what preachers tell them, because that's churchism and it gets money for churches. The problem is we're to be going. In other words, we're to focus on all these other things as well as having fellowship with our brothers and sisters.
All right, so let's go on. The disciples then, they said they're going to go. Jesus tells them where to go, and they're going to find a room all ready to go. And his disciples set out and went into the city as Jesus had instructed them, and found just as he had said to them, and they prepared the Passover.
So here we have, to these guys, it was an every year occurrence. They did not realize.
Nothing special about this Passover, except Jesus was with them. He was something special, but they didn't realize what. Nothing.
But see, Jesus had been with them for other Passovers.
Yeah.
This isn't the first Passover.
This is like maybe the third Passover, fourth Passover.
Yeah. They didn't know it was the last Passover.
Mm-hmm. The last supper they would share together. The last meal.
And that's where last meal, and everything changed. It's like this event, this week. Mm-hmm. This meal is where Satan is exposed in Judas. Okay.
Yeah.
In this event, Jesus tells about how he intercedes for them. He's going to talk about how he's going to die for them. He's going to talk about he's going to send the Comforter. The Holy Spirit is going to come and intercede for them. He gives them the war plan at this meal, and that's what we're going to be studying for the next few weeks. But they don't know that. And that's the way life is. That's why we have to realize we're going all the time, and we're working, and we're studying, and we're thinking, and we're helping other people, and we're witnessing, and we're doing all these things. But there may be a last time we do it. And a good example is I have a friend that just yesterday was interned, you could say. He died a couple weeks ago. And he's one of the outstanding attorneys in America. And he always wanted not to accept the idea that Christ was his only hope. He was a religious guy, believed in church. He had the ceremonies. He organized. He helped Christians. He was an excellent attorney. But he never wanted to accept his works were enough. And I pray that he did, because I've thought about him all week. He died last week. And I don't know, because I'd spoken with him many times, and my other friends have spoken with him many times, and he always resisted this. And the last time we talked, I talked to my friend who had talked to him. He had not changed his tone. Mm. So we thank the Lord that he gives us plenty of grace to know. And if you know anyone that needs to know, it may be their last time.
Don't be afraid to say something.
You never know when history's going to totally shift from Passover to Last Supper. This has been Dan and Lee Rodden in our Sunday class. If you want to sign up for our newsletter and get a lot more information and a lot more stuff, you need to go to oursundayclass.simplesite.com. oursundayclass.simplesite.com and get all the information about our classes and our newsletter.